It's reported that a new deal is in the bag after Britain's Prime Minister met with the European Commission President over the Northern Ireland Protocol. Israeli settlers rampaged towns in the West Bank, killing one and wounding hundreds after a Palestinian gunman killed two Israeli brothers.
The UN Human Rights Council is kicking off its longest ever session, and Russia and the war in Ukraine are top of its agenda.
Struggling to find jobs and places to live, thousands of Ukrainian refugees are leaving Spain in search of better opportunities.
It's reported that a new deal is done. According to senior government sources, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, was in Windsor to meet with Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to try to solve the issues over the Northern Ireland Protocol with a new Brexit deal. However, Mr Sunak will have to convince his Conservative Party of the deal, as well as its Northern Ireland allies. The move follows a sideline meeting at the Munich Security Conference 10 days ago. The deal could end a dispute that has soured UK-EU relations, which sparked the collapse of the Belfast-based regional government and shaken Northern Ireland's decades-old peace process. Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK that shares a border with an EU member, the Republic of Ireland. British unionist politicians in Belfast say since Brexit, the new trade border in the Irish Sea undermines the Northern Ireland's place in the UK. Later, Ursula von der Leyen will meet with King Charles amid DUP criticism. 1 dead, 300 wounded, 75 homes burnt and more than 100 cars torched. The Palestinian town of Hawara has suffered the worst outbreak of Israeli settler violence to hit the West Bank in decades. Settlers rampaged through the town after a Palestinian gunman killed two Israeli brothers. The Israeli government sent hundreds of soldiers to try to control the situation.
אני קורא לכולם להרגיע את הרוחות, לצנן, אין לגיטימציה ואי אפשר לפעול מהבטן. אסור בשום פנים ואופן שאנחנו נאפשר מצב שבו אנשים לוקחים את החוק לידיים. אני מבקש מכולם להישמע להוראות החוק ובעיקר לסמוך על צה"ל וכוחות הביטחון בכל מקום ברחבי הארץ.
Other Palestinian villages were also attacked by Israeli settlers. The international community considers these settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem illegal and an obstacle to peace. Violence between Israelis and Palestinians has escalated since the beginning of the year.
War crimes committed in Ukraine will be top of the agenda at the UN's Human Rights Council Assembly in Geneva. With thousands of civilians killed and millions displaced, the world body is holding an extended gathering, running until April 4th, making it the Council's longest ever session.
The Russian invasion of the Ukraine has triggered the most massive violations of human rights we are living today. It has unleashed widespread death, destruction and displacement. Attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure have caused many casualties and terrible suffering.
The Human Rights Council meeting comes after the UN General Assembly recently called for the immediate withdrawal of Russian forces from Ukraine. Tensions are expected to rise on Thursday with the attendance of Russia's deputy foreign minister, with some diplomats expected to walk out in protest.
There's one thing that Ukrainian and Russian accounts agree upon. The fighting around the eastern city of Bakhmut is fierce and relentless, and the casualties on both sides are high. Russia aims to encircle Ukraine's troops here rather than drive directly towards the city center. Wagner Group have sought to surround the city in a wide arc from the north of Bakhmut. Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin claimed that his fighters captured Yagidna, that's about 2 kilometers north of Bakhmut, and posted a picture of Wagner Group posting near the settlement's welcome sign that was later geolocated, indicating that Wagner fighters likely captured the settlement, the Institute for the Study of War says. Ukraine's military has dismissed those claims, saying that intense fighting was going on across the whole front line, including around Bakhmut. Further south, the Institute for the Study of War says Russian forces continue to struggle to conduct effective combat operations on the Zaporizhia region front line. Representative of the Ukrainian Tavrisk operational direction reported that Russian forces are accumulating a large amount of Russian personnel and equipment near Vasilivka and Gulaypole in Zaporizhzhia region. Now, deputy head of the Ukrainian main intelligence directorate stated that Ukrainian forces will be ready for a counteroffensive this upcoming spring, and that one of Ukraine's strategic goals will be to drive a wedge into the Russian front in southern Ukraine between Crimea and the Russian mainland.
Inna came to Spain with her daughter to flee the war in Ukraine. After spending several months in a reception centre, she now lives with a Spanish host family. They say they're deeply grateful for the help they've received from the government, NGOs and Spanish society as a whole. But 1 year on from Russia's invasion, many refugees are still struggling to settle in Spain.
Перша проблема – це незнання мови. Без знання мови жодної роботи не знайдеш. Тому ми почали вчити мову. По-друге, треба підтвердити свій диплом.
Only 15% of refugees have found a job in Spain, compared to an average of 40% in Europe. Many of them are forced to rely on savings and the help of families and NGOs to survive.
Only my parents from Ukraine, they send me money.
160,000 Ukrainians were granted temporary protection in Spain, but 60,000 of them still aren't registered to a Spanish address.
De verdad, hay muchas personas que no tienen casas, que están desplazados, o unos familiares o unos conocidos ucranianos que viven por aquí.
Thousands have been forced to return to Ukraine or move to other countries with better job opportunities and financial aid for both refugees and host families.
Creo que la mitad sí que se quedan de los que están, pero claro, pueden llegar nuevas.
Ukrainian and Spanish associations have demanded financial help for those displaced by the war. The Spanish government promised a monthly €400 subsidy for them, which is only now starting to arrive.
No entendemos cómo unas ayudas ya aprobadas todavía no estén circulando un año después.
At least 22,000 Ukrainian families have already made their way back home since August, despite not knowing how much home they have left.
Porque a medida que el Kremlin recrudece su ofensiva sobre Ucrania, Europa deberá prepararse de nuevo para un posible éxodo ucraniano con decenas de miles de desplazados. En Madrid, Jaime Velázquez, Euronews.
Italy's Coast Guard is still searching for dozens of missing people after a boat carrying hundreds of migrants sank off Italy's coast, killing at least 62 people, including 12 children. Around 80 people have been found alive, but officers fear the death toll could top 100 since some survivors have indicated the boat had at least 200 people on board. One 12-year-old boy lost his entire family in the shipwreck, including his 4 siblings. An investigation is underway to identify 4 people who allegedly organised the tragic crossing from Turkey.
Nell'occasione è stato individuato anche un presunto facilitatore, presunto scafista insieme alla pattuglia dei carabinieri, e al momento sono in corso delle attività di indagine finalizzate ad accertarne la responsabilità in capo a questo e in capo anche ad altri 3 presunti facilitatori sempre di nazionalità turca che al momento sono in fuga e le ricerche sono in corso.
The shipwreck comes just days after the Italian Parliament adopted controversial new rules restricting rescue efforts. The new law forces humanitarian ships to carry out only 1 rescue at a time. The move, critics say, will increase the number of people killed while trying to cross the Mediterranean. According to monitoring groups, more than 20,000 people have died or gone missing at sea in the Mediterranean since 2014. A mini Beatles reunion of sorts. 3 classic Mini Cooper cars owned by Paul McCartney, George Harrison and Ringo Starr have gone on display in London. The vehicles became a symbol of the swinging 60s, and the Beatles were avid collectors at the time. But only 3 of the Fab Four's Minis were reunited at the event, marking the 60th anniversary of the Mini Cooper S. The one owned by John Lennon was destroyed after a crash in the 1970s. It's not known if it happened on the long and winding road.
Jacques-Henri Lartigue, one of the greatest photographers of the 20th century, is best known for his black and white pictures. The Canal Foundation in Milan is presenting a rare exhibition of his work in colour, particularly from the Trente Glorieuses and the happy moments he immortalised. Colour is the best way to capture the charm and poetry of life, said Lartigue. Maurits Cornelis Escher is one of the most unusual artists of the 20th century, born 125 years ago in The Hague, in the Netherlands. His city pays homage to him through an exhibition of his main works. Entitled Escher, Otherworld, the exhibition of the Kunstmuseum combines works by the Dutch master with architectural installations that bring Escher's strange world to life. A short walk from the Thames in the heart of London, the Hayway Gallery is completely transformed by the installations and sculptures of Mike Nelson. These are large-scale works, many of which are being shown here for the first time since their original creation. All of them are constructed from recycled materials, from junk shops to flea markets.